Hello. I have a pile of books that I'm forcing myself to read. Before I start, hello, my name is Amma, or you can call me Rainy as well. Welcome to another video. This feels very weird because as I'm filming this, I have not uploaded a single video on my channel. I'm still editing the first one, but it's fine. So I thought it would be fun to kind of talk about my TBR. It's not really for a specific period, like it's not going to be for this month or something like that, because it's quite a few books and I'm not like that fast of a reader. I have read 6 or 7 books in the past 2.5 months, which I think is relatively quick, but I'm not a person who can like push out reading 20 books a month. But I do sometimes get into the habit of buying books and then not reading them, so I hope that this video will hold me accountable. If you want me to give a review of any of these books, feel free to let me know which ones, or maybe you want to see a reading vlog, something else, just let me know. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first book that I want to talk about is one that I'm reading at the moment. It is We Free the Star by Hafsa Faizal. It is the sequel and final parts of the Sands of Arawiya duology. The first book is called We Hunt the Flame. And I read the first book. I was crushed. So now I'm reading the second one. I don't have a lot to say about it because I don't know how to do this without spoiling too much, and I'm also really bad at explaining how what a book is about. But there was a battle in the first book that is now over, but things aren't fully done yet because otherwise we wouldn't get a second book, of course. I'm very interested in this because the book, or the trope of this duology, is enemies to lovers between Zafira and Nasir. Surprise! I mean, it's the two main characters, so of course I hope that it wasn't too much of a spoiler. And I thought it was interesting because in the first book I didn't like their first meeting, how it went, without spoiling too much. I just wasn't a fan of it, and I was like, how in the world are they gonna go from this to being in love with each other? And then in the first book there were moments where I was like, I can see it, but it's not fully there yet. But I really hope that the second book will, I guess, establish the relationship more. But yeah, so I'm interested to see how Zafira and Nasir's relationship develops. I do like them as characters a lot. We'll see where this goes. I'm enjoying it so far, but I'm at like page 30, 38 or 36. So there's not that much that I can say right now. Yep. It is that time again. Okay, so for some reason my phone stopped recording and I didn't notice until quite a bit later. To put it quite simply, I was talking about 2 books. I finished talking about 1 book and then went to the next one, and at some point I think I even went to a third one, and then it stopped recording at some point in there, and I assumed that it had already recorded the first and the second book and I just needed to talk about the third one. No, there's this whole like second book that I didn't mention, so here it is. It also has a sequel that I'm just gonna put here just in case, so you have it all together. So the second and third book on my TBR are Reboot and Rebel by Amy Tintera. These are both YA dystopian novels or books. It's kind of funny, I received these as well as the next book you're gonna see from my teacher, my Latin teacher, because I really used to be into writing a couple of years ago when I was younger, and these books were given to me by my teacher, and he was like, well, you can use these to like analyze storylines, characters, structures of books, which I thought was very sweet, and I never ended up reading them, which makes me feel even worse. But onto the actual book. So as I said, this is a YA dystopian book. So there's this world that we're in with these things called reboots, which are basically humans that have died and then came back to life, right? And the amount of time that it took for you to come back to life equates to how powerful you are, I suppose. So our main character, Ren Connolly, woke up after 178 minutes, which is, I think, the longest time for a reboot, and she's basically the deadliest one that there is. Also, the longer it takes for this person to come back as a reboot, the less human they are, I think. So we follow Callum, who becomes back as a reboot relatively quickly, and he's pretty human for that reason. Ren is supposed to train this guy to become a reboot, and like a very well trained one, but Callum isn't really well trained. He's like asking questions, quite slow, things like that. Not a great student, basically. But she also notices that Callum kind of causes some feelings, and I don't exactly know if these are like platonic or romantic. I'm kind of assuming romantic, but maybe that's a wrong assumption on my part. And then at some point, Ren is ordered to kill Callum, and Ren has never defied any orders. She usually just follows what she is given, but in this case she might actually go against what she is told to do, and that's kind of where this summary synopsis of the plot ends. So there's the first and second book. These are in Dutch. I think the original book is in English, but I was given Dutch copies and I was like, well, why not read them? I am interested to read these. I haven't read dystopian in a while. I think the last dystopian book that I read was Divergent, and I was about 14 when I read those books. And I kind of stopped somewhere in the second book. So anyway, back to me in the video. I apologize for having to do this for the third time. If you have watched all 3 videos so far, you have noticed this. I promise this is not going to be like a recurring thing. I'm gonna try my best not to do this in the next video. But anyway, enough of me yapping, and let's get back to the video. I hope you enjoy it. Next up, we have a book that I got after a book swap. It's called The Milkman by Anna Burns. I will just read the back of this because I was very interested in this book because of what it's about. So let's go. In an unnamed city where to be interesting is dangerous, an 18-year-old woman has attracted the unwanted and unavoidable attention of a powerful and frightening older man, Milkman. In this community, where suggestions quickly become facts, where gossip and hearsay can lead to terrible consequences, what can she do to stop a rumor once it has started? Milkman is persistent, the word is spreading, and she's no longer in control. Stalking, that's what it's about basically. Sounds very interesting. I think it's just like an adult novel. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say. I'm excited to read it. We'll see what I think of it. I was thinking of maybe doing a reading vlog of this book. I might, so we'll see how that goes. The next 2 books are books that I actually got from a blind book date, which I am going to another one in 2 days. But there is this bookshop in my uni that does a blind book date thingy. They did it last year and they're doing it this year too. They're making it an annual thing to do these blind book dates, which I think is a really cool idea, because it gives you books that you maybe wouldn't pick up or hear about. So the first one is called I Should Be Extremely Happy in Your Company, written by Brian Hall. It's a novel about Lewis and Clark, so their full names are Meriwether Lewis and William Clark. They are going on an expedition to the Pacific Ocean. It is historical fiction. I haven't read a lot of historical fiction, I think, so maybe I will like this. Maybe it'll open me up to the genre. Who knows? I have read, it's not really historical fiction, I've read Pride and Prejudice, and I really liked it. Also like the setting it was in. I guess it was contemporary for Jane Austen because it was written in her time. I think it was romance and comedy, right? But anyways, my point is, I like stories that are set in a different time, or the idea of it at least, so maybe I will like it. We'll see how, I'm open to it pretty much. It seems interesting. Next up, we have another book from the blind book date, but it's called By the Light of My Father's Smile by Alice Walker, which I think the cover of this book is actually so pretty, with like the roses and stuff. It's not super like, I don't want to say it's complicated. I'm sure designing books is hard, but it's not like too in your face, or there's not like too much happening here, but it's really pretty. I will just check what the post-it about this one said, because there were posts. Where is the post-it? It's fiction about feminism, sexuality, literature, and I think the main character is African American. I'm assuming it's contemporary because there's no specific time like period mentioned. But yeah, it seems interesting. We'll see what I think of it. Maybe I'll do a review of it. Maybe I'll do a review of my whole TBR, who knows. Next up, we have a book that I'm excited about that I will be reading last. Maybe that will push me to read all of these books so I can get to this one. It's The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. Every person that has talked to me about this book has praised it and told me to read it, and I finally bought it. And I also know that after reading the first book, I will probably want to read the sequel. In the past, I've made this mistake where I would read a book of a trilogy, duology, then I would read books in between and then get to the next part, even though it was already out, which was not a good idea. So I'm trying to see if maybe reading them back to back helps me, just with like forming an opinion as well sometimes, because for example, with A Curse of Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer, I really like that book. It's the Beauty and the Beast retelling, to make it short. And I read the second and third books really late, and looking back, I think I would have enjoyed it even more if I had done it all back to back. I might reread those books actually, but we'll see. But yeah, so that's what I'm doing here. This is a fantasy book. I think it's based on China. It parallels with modern Chinese history. I am interested to see how I like this one, and if I like the Poppy War, I will probably enjoy the sequels, and I will probably read Babel as well, because I've also heard a lot of good things about that one. And from what I've heard, the storyline of Babel seems very interesting. And that is the last book that I will be reading, but I just realized that I forgot to show y'all this one other book. It is Orientalism by Edward Said. So this book is basically about, like, it's this overview of Western attitudes towards the East. It specifically, I think, mostly goes into the Middle East, but I suppose you could say that the Far East maybe also be part of this. It's very interesting, especially because I've read this history book a while ago about the Ottoman Empire. That book had made references to Orientalism by Edward Said. I actually had read this before, but I sort of DNF'd it because I was reading this on vacation, and I realized later on that during vacations I should not be reading books like this. It's very academically written, which I can digest. I am a uni student, and it is understandable, but it took me a long time to read, and it's just it contains a lot of, you know, things that I haven't thought about before, and I think as a result of that, I need more time for the information to really sink in. I really want to finish this, so I really hope that I will. I am forcing myself to read it. So that marks the end of my TBR. I hope you guys are as interested in these books as I am, or at least some of these, because I can imagine not all of these are super interesting to everyone. People like different things. Even I, with some of them, I'm like neutral, and with others, I'm very excited. We'll see how this goes. I may post some reading vlogs. I may post reviews. Maybe I will just do a whole video where I talk about this TBR, or like parts of it. We'll see. Let me know if there's any specific books you really want to hear my opinion on. I think that's it for today. Please take care of yourselves. Have a nice day, and I will see you next time. If you like this video, maybe give it a like, and if you want to see more videos, maybe subscribe to me, and maybe comment if you want to comment. I'm always open to discussions. If you maybe have read any of these books, let me know what you think without spoiling too much, please, or if there's anything specific you would like to share about it without spoiling it. Again, thank you. You can do that once I've read them. That is it. I'm actually gonna go. I need to get better at ending these videos. Hope you have a nice day. Please take care of yourself, and I will see you next time. Bye.